What if I told you that everything you know about modern capitalism, global trade, and skyscraper cities started with just one tiny village, 400 years ago? From the canals of Amsterdam, to the fog of London, to the skyline of New York. This is the epic journey of how three cities took turns ruling the world, and changed your life without you even knowing it. 400 years ago, a modest Dutch village called Amsterdam set out on an ambitious journey, not by waging war or building an empire through conquest, but by reshaping the way the world traded and did business. It became the cradle of modern capitalism and, in time, the richest city in Europe. Here, in this small city of canals and innovation, anyone, regardless of social status, could take part in economic prosperity. It was a place where ambition met opportunity. A century later, the spotlight shifted. London, once Amsterdam's rival, had grown into the greatest trading city on Earth. It survived fires, wars, and disease to emerge as a financial powerhouse, and eventually, the largest city in the world. But London's success came at a cost. Railways cut through communities. Poorer citizens were displaced. The city expanded with an unstoppable force, laying the foundation for the megalopolises of tomorrow. Across the Atlantic, New Amsterdam, renamed New York, entered the global scene under British rule. It broke free and rapidly evolved into the vertical city of the future, powered by innovation, trade, and sheer ambition. Skyscrapers grew from stone, steel, and dreams, redefining what a city could be. Back in Amsterdam, the seeds of a global revolution were planted in 1594 during a simple meeting near Dam Square. 10 businessmen, merchants, brewers, and traders gathered to challenge Portugal's monopoly on the spice trade with Asia. At that time, Amsterdam was still small, with fewer than 30,000 residents. But these men saw potential. They had money, ships, experience, and vision. Among them was Dirk van Os, a refugee from Antwerp, like many others who had fled war and religious persecution. When Spain cracked down on Protestant provinces, half the population of Antwerp chose to leave. Many headed for Amsterdam, investing in homes and building new lives. The group formed a company, the Compagnie van Ver, literally, Company for Faraway Lands. They planned routes, studied maps, and sent Cornelius de Houtman to Lisbon to gather intelligence. He would lead their expedition to the east. The venture cost an enormous 300,000 guilders, more than any single merchant could afford. So dozens of investors joined forces. 3 ships, 249 men, and a dream. The expedition faced brutal conditions: scurvy, mutinies, and Portuguese hostility. They lost many lives. Only 80 returned, carrying a mere few sacks of pepper. By typical standards, it was a disaster. But they'd proven it was possible. They had broken Portugal's hold, and that changed everything. Amsterdam needed ships, lots of them, to capitalize on this breakthrough. Enter Cornelis Zoon, a mill owner and inventor who revolutionized shipbuilding by adapting the crankshaft. This invention transformed windmill motion into vertical saw action, enabling timber to be cut 30 times faster than before. Suddenly, ships could be built quickly and cheaply. Amsterdam became the shipyard of Europe. Within just 5 years, the city launched 75 expeditions to Asia, bringing home 9 million guilders, enough to pay off the national war debt. The Dutch Golden Age had begun, but chaos loomed. Dozens of trading companies began competing, driving up prices and attracting unwanted attention from the Spanish and Portuguese. To survive, unity was needed. In 1602, a new solution emerged: the Dutch East India Company, or VOC. This was not just a company, it was an empire in the making. Anyone could invest. Blacksmiths, housekeepers, craftsmen, over 100 people bought shares, a remarkable reflection of Amsterdam's economic inclusivity. The VOC raised over 3.6 million guilders and revolutionized investment. This was the birth of the modern stock market. At first, investors struggled with the VOC's long-term model. They were used to short-term voyages, not 10-year commitments, so they adapted. Shareholders began trading ownership among themselves, on a bridge, then inside a church. Thus, the Amsterdam Stock Exchange was born, the first of its kind, a place where capitalism, infrastructure, and democracy converged. As money flowed, so did ideas. Hendrik de Keyser, the city's top architect, designed the stock exchange near City Hall, symbolizing the link between commerce and politics. Amsterdam became the first city to host a full financial ecosystem. Investors, exchanges, headquarters, and policymakers, all within walking distance. Soon, the city itself transformed. Between 1585 and 1615, the population tripled. 10 square kilometers were developed. 100 bridges were built. Entire neighborhoods rose from marshland. A new form of urban planning emerged, the first in Europe. Districts were divided by profession. Green spaces were required. Each house was allowed only to cover half its plot, leaving room for gardens. Public buildings were designed like palaces, even orphanages and retirement homes. Dutch canal houses became the model of cozy domestic life, reflecting a new vision of individualism and family. Foreigners visiting the city were stunned. There were no palaces, no kings, and yet the city was rich, elegant, and organized. Amsterdam's success echoed across the Atlantic. In 1623, the Dutch West India Company was created to manage trade with the Americas. Volunteers were recruited to settle in the New World. A year later, a small group, mostly young people from Flanders, departed. New Amsterdam was born. Meanwhile, London was catching up. Wool, first exported raw to Europe, became the backbone of England's textile industry. French Huguenot refugees and Dutch weavers were invited to settle in the East End of London. They brought looms, knowledge, and craftsmanship. Houses were built with weaving lofts to support industry. London's population soared. The city broke through its medieval boundaries, growing west toward Westminster. But growth came with tension. Kings like James I and Charles Apar tried to impose their architectural vision, modeled on royal grandeur, but lacked the power. London's traders held sway, and the city evolved without central royal control. The result? A city of wealth, ambition, and friction. London became a battleground between parliament and monarchy, contributing to civil war. In 1649, Charles I was executed, outside the very palace he dreamed would glorify him. But from this chaos, a new London emerged. Banks were formalized. Jewish financiers allowed back into England, opened offices on Lombard Street, hanging signs instead of names, creating the first logos. Lombard Street, filled with images like cats and fiddles, became the financial core of a new kind of empire. Amsterdam and London clashed over control of sea routes, but both continued to grow, one with a head start in finance and shipping, the other with booming industry and military ambition. Across the ocean, New York was taking shape. Hudson's voyage had ended in failure, but opened doors. By the mid-1600s, this once overlooked settlement began to build upward, the vertical city in the making. In the span of 4 centuries, 3 cities changed the course of human history. Amsterdam pioneered capitalism. London industrialized it. New York globalized it. Their paths were never perfect, marred by exploitation, war, and inequality. But together, they rewrote the rules of what a city and civilization could become, from the rise of mighty cities to the turning points that shaped our world. History isn't just in books, it's all around us. Thanks for watching this journey through time. If you enjoyed it, smash that like button, subscribe to Informed Earth, and hit the bell.